I'm going to start off by introducing myself. My name is Ashalee Nelson Versier. I am a wife. I am a mother, currently a graduate student. Also, the author of A Woman Lost in Her Childhood. I have a new book that's actually going to be coming out. It's The Fragrance of a Resilient Woman. So be on the lookout for that. And I would like to start off by introducing our guests. I'll let them allow them to introduce themselves. So we can start off with you, Miss Ashalee, if you can introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Ashalee LaFleur, and I am a mom of 3, a wife of 16 years, and I currently handle all the appeals through Louisiana Medicaid. And I am a very special classmate of Ashalee.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Miss Ashalee. Okay, Miss Althea.
My name is Althea O'Brien. I am a mother of 1 beautiful daughter. I work for the City and County of San Francisco, and that's about it on this side. And a classmate of Ashalee.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Miss Miranda.
My name is Miranda Thomas. I am a mother of 5. I am a licensed practical nurse. I manage a clinic in Winsboro, Louisiana. Currently a psychology student. Ready to start fulfilling my purpose as far as being a counselor or somewhere in the psychology field. Ashalee and I have been friends for several years. She's a really good friend of mine, and I'm just excited to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Miss Miranda. Thank you all, ladies. Let us bow our head and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you today just to say thank you. Thank you, Father God, for allowing me to have this opportunity right now with these ladies, dear God. I don't take this opportunity lightly, dear God. I ask you to enter this place, enter this time, and allow me to be transparent. Allow me to decrease in the flesh, dear God. Just I'll allow you to take over this situation, dear God. Although being on a platform is just something that's not typically something that I do, but for you to strengthen me along the way, dear God, and help me to touch your people, dear God, to use me to help your people, dear God. I also ask that whatever it is that you want to be said and presented, to let it be said. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, my sister Ashalee. You know why I call you Ashalee, right? I thank you for your obedience. I just honor it so very much. I know that maybe some level of fear came with you writing this book. So to do it, it's just so awesome. It's maybe we may get to this, but it's just encouraging to me to let me know that it doesn't matter what you've been through, how bad, maybe even it's shameful with the feelings, that I mean, you can still succeed. You can still walk with just the boldness, which you have done. And through this book, I'm just so proud of you, Ashalee. I am so proud of you. Keep doing what you do. So my question to you, a few things hit, which I could relate to in the book, but I'm going to go on the chapter of forgiveness. Mm-hmm. I like when you said, like, you've always been the person to forgive. First of all, I want to know, for the people who will probably watch this, and maybe they feel like me. I felt that I was just always this loving person. I loved people, but it hadn't came to about maybe 2 years ago that I really realized that I was walking around with unforgiveness, which exhibits through like anger or, just feelings when that person may pop up on your timeline, or maybe you may see this person in person and just weird feelings comes up, even though you may be that loving person, but the root thing is unforgiveness. So first of all, when did you first forgive the people that really hurt you, like your, family members, maybe friends?
Um, the time I would say that I actually fully forgave, I can start off with my stepmom, was when I actually brought it to her. It was years, and I felt that I forgave her, but I was in her presence and it was just on my heart. I always wanted to speak to her about why she treated me that way as a kid when I was an adult. But it was difficult. And then years later, it wasn't until 2016. I can remember it was November of 2016. I went and got her, and she came over to my home, and we sat there and we talked. And we had a conversation. I don't think we ever talked that way before. And I just started to talk to her and just ask her, what was really going on and why was she doing those things? And then, we went on with our conversation. So that was when I felt a relief of just having a conversation with her, because throughout the years, I felt that I forgave her. I was still there. I would do things for her. We would talk. And it was just that question behind my mind continuing to think, why?
Yeah.
Why? So I finally just built that inner strength and then asked her, why? So, yeah. And we just had that discussion. That was my part of forgiveness with her. That's when I knew that, I finally just let that space go after speaking with her.
Did you feel as a component necessary to confront, I don't want to say confront, to have that conversation with her? Were you afraid, maybe because, reading the book, we know that, she was aggressive and, abusive. So knowing that maybe her personality, maybe she wouldn't have accepted the conversation, if that makes sense. Were you afraid to even say, okay, stepmother, we need to have this conversation? Or at that point, it was like, whatever be, will be. But for me to have a peace of mind, whether I get the answer that I want or not, is just to be able to let it out.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
It was some hesitation. But I was an adult and I already had 2 kids, and I had already began to bring my kids over to see her, because you have to think, I know I never mentioned it, but I ran away from home at 17 and never returned back to even speak with her until I had my first child at 22. So that was years of just living like that and still missing her and loving her, but I still felt that I didn't have that strength to even face her. So with that being said, that time, whenever when it came to her, I wasn't afraid anymore because I was an adult, and I allowed her, they say you have to allow people to repent, should I say, whenever they wrong you. So it's kind of like we had already had those discussions, and we didn't speak on what happened in the past. We just carried on as if it never happened. So by that time, I'm like, okay, we need to speak on it. So I wasn't afraid because she had changed, to be honest. She was not the same that she was when I was a kid. And even the love that she showed to my kids, I would have never, I knew she wouldn't have done that to my kids by the time I actually reconnected with her, because she was no longer that person she was when I was a kid. But it's because I received that treatment, now I'm still scorned because of what I went through, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, I wasn't, at that time, I wasn't afraid, but I was still very uncomfortable. I was actually uncomfortable with hurting her, to be honest, because I didn't want to make her feel bad about me approaching her about this situation. So Did I answer your question?
You did. You
Okay.
sure.
Okay. All right, Miss Miranda, what's the question you have for me?
So I have several questions, but I'm going to just start with one. How were you able to carry on? Because none of us really knew in school that you were going through all that stuff. You were still friendly. You were in dance. You were still, you were still just happy like one of us. And how were you able to carry on knowing that all of these things were taking place in your home?
When I think God, bro, because it's kind of like I'm amazed and I'm still wondering how I did it. So I mean, it was nobody physically there, so I just know that's the power of God. Like, who else? Who else could it have been? Because I turned to Him since a kid, because I can remember being in the church, and because I didn't have a father, so in the church we always hear that God is our Father. He is there. So as kids, I mean, we already have imaginations. We already can put together. So I just formed this thing in my head that God is there with me, and I promise you, He just carried me through. But what it did was, I noticed the more I would go through things, I would harden up. I would put the shield. I had this wall in front of me. So it's kind of like I would show love to others, but then I would protect myself at the same time in fear of what can happen to me. Because you have to think about when you receive that type of abuse from someone who's supposed to be your own, from someone who you love. I didn't see my biological mother, so she was my mother, stepmother. At that time, it was no step. I say that now just to give a description so my readers could know, but no step was included because that was my mom. So at the end of the day, when you receive that hurt from your mom, the one that you have to turn to, it makes you out of somebody. It's kind of like you're not who you really are, because it's kind of like I'm just walking and just living a life, and
just going with the flow.
Yeah, so it's more like yeah, I hope that answered your question. I'm just getting a little emotional talking about it. But like anything else that you wanted to say?
Yes. At what point in your life did you start feeling safe? Like, okay, I'm safe now. I don't have to worry about my my mom or my stepfather. Was it in your adult life after you started having kids and you were on your own, or when you ran away at 17, did you feel safe then? When did you actually start feeling okay? I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay.
It was after I ran away, but it still wasn't right away because I was still afraid to see like if the cops would come and get me, or end up having to go back home and get beat again. So I was still kind of like living in fear. But it's like once I made, because I was 17 and I was still scared, thinking that I still didn't have a right to leave home. But like when I made 18, I was more comfortable because I'm like, now I'm an adult. Okay, she has no right to take me and, force me to go back home. And I started, because of what happened, I started to live life differently. Now, I'm a person that's to myself. I've always been to myself, but I still think that me being to myself has something to do with what I experience. Because it really doesn't bother me, but I think because I lived my life so long, being kind of like isolated and not having no one next to me, that I've adjusted to it. And so I lived that way. So after me being 18 years old and being comfortable and not afraid of having to go back to the abuse, I still lived my life to myself, always. Like I can remember working 2-3 jobs at one time for the longest, just a hustle in me, you know. So it just made me like, I don't have no one to hand anything to me. I have no one to turn to. So I got to go get this and do this on my own. So now my mind had formed into being a hustler. Being a hustler, I got to get it the best way that I know how.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. And that's a reason why I'm like, look.
Got to get this.
So, okay. Did I
That's
answer?
it.
Okay. Okay, Miss Ashley, your turn, your question.
I guess my question is gonna piggyback a little bit off of Althea's question. That was my main thing. I focused on, after enduring everything that you endured and looking at the situation now, I just wanted to know if you felt the need to even have that one-on-one with your godmommy, your stepmommy, or your stepdad. Do you feel like you need that need at this point of your journey, or not? You answered it with Althea for your stepmom, but how do you feel about having a one-on-one with your godmommy and your stepdad? Is it even needed?
Yeah. Well, my godmom is my stepmom.
Gotcha.
Part of that story, but that's okay. So she's the same person. Now I can speak on my stepdad. To be honest, that's the hardest, because it's kind of like something else was taken from me. And when it comes to him, I was around him after, even as an adult. Never disrespected him or anything, but I never said anything unless he said something to me. And usually the time that I was around, because she was still, with him. And the time that I would go with my kids, I would kind of like shelter them, and I would like,
stay close to me.
Or yeah, like stuff like that. But never was disrespectful to him, never told him anything, never gave him the eye. I really looked at him because of the life he lived and felt sorry for him, honestly. Because it's like, I feel like some people just don't know.
Yeah.
People just don't know any better. So it's kind of like, that's how I looked at him. But as to say, to speak to him, no. I have that part right there. I have nothing to say to him. Now, to speak to him and say hello, or how are you doing, or hey, or, just maybe 2 words the most. But to say, to have the conversation about that, I don't know who I will be whenever I speak about it. So
that makes sense.
I'm more afraid of how I'll react the deeper I get into it. And I know, because when I wrote my book, that I could tell. So, that's just something I'm working on. And then I do think about forgiveness when it comes to that part too. Forgiveness is different levels for you to know if you actually forgiven someone. I don't have no hate for him in my heart. I just can't verbalize anything to him. And it's more on protecting myself.
That's right.
Well, so it's like, it's no hate towards him at all. But it's just protecting myself. I just rather not speak on that part. And when it comes to forgiveness, I actually believe that that's okay. I believe that I still know I have some healing, but I still believe that it's okay that I'm not actually sitting there talking to him about it, because we really don't have anything to talk about.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Understandable.
So with that being said, is that pretty much it for you guys with the questions for me?
Can I pick? Look, I'm gonna this forgiveness thing, because I know for myself that sometimes you don't even know that you're walking around in unforgiveness. And yeah. I think we see it as women, and just thinking about it, whether it's rejection, it still all goes, a lot of it stems back to unforgiveness. Unforgiveness, you're angry, you're bitter. And we see, we hear whatever, the angry Black woman or whatever, but it's like, and even in, like me, I know I had a sharp tongue. I could tell you off like it wasn't no tomorrow. You guys probably could look at me and say, oh, she's so loving. But if you would get under my skin, I tell you, I could go off. Like, didn't know what I was saying, putting words together, but I could go off. But it's just like, it goes back to, you know, we see our fellow sisters. I think a lot of us are walking around in that unforgiveness and thinking about, well, they did me wrong, so I can be mad at them. And it's justifiable, you know, anger. But I mean, what do you say to that person, like, who maybe not even know that they're walking around in unforgiveness? What do you tell them? Maybe regarding their actions, like maybe you've seen it in women or whomever, and you could probably see that, oh, they may have a little unforgiveness. What do you say to that person? Like, the first steps, like, how can you help them out? Help us all out. And do you believe that forgiving people, maybe your stepfather, it's an ongoing process? Maybe something may come up, spark in your mind. Maybe you're watching a show, and then all of a sudden, all these feelings come up, and you may get a little angry. Do you think it's just, sometimes it's just an ongoing process? And it's like you said, I feel it's nothing wrong with that, because we're flesh at the end of the day. I mean, we have these feelings and emotions, but to just walk around in it, not wanting to change and not know, like, what do you tell that fellow sister to help her out?
Well, we can go back to focusing on forgiveness. First, we definitely need to identify that that's actually how we feel, because some people don't even realize that they haven't forgiven the situation. I say forgiveness takes time, but also, like, basically, whenever you're going through healing, forgiveness kind of interacts with it, but you don't forget. So I think those feelings actually come back because you never forgotten about the situation. And say, for instance, for me, because I haven't forgotten about the situation, it has me trying to protect my kids from actually going through it. So it's times that I may feel a certain way or a little anxious about it, but I don't think it has nothing to do with me not forgiving him. It's because it happened to me that I'm trying to do the best to prevent it from happening to my kids. And I think that's okay. But when it comes around, if someone's actually walking around with no forgiveness, I will definitely say you have to forgive for yourself. It has nothing to do with the person. It has nothing to do with what you actually went through. You have to actually learn how to forgive for yourself and allow yourself to heal. And when it comes to that process, honestly, I don't have a list of how I actually do it. I turn to God for a lot of things. So I pray about it and I'm specific. Now, recently I learned that you can be specific in prayer with God. I used to just live my life and just pray to God, but not be specific about what I really want from him. But now I actually speak to God and I am specifically asking him what I require. And then if it's forgiveness that you want in your heart to allow you to heal, then ask for it, then speak it and say it and live as such, and then do whatever it is that you have to do to start your healing process. So that's pretty much what I would say for them.
And that makes a lot of sense. I know, like, for me, I've had situations where when it comes to forgiving, it's like a lot of women try to just avoid the situation or avoid the area, and I stay away. And my family, like my mom knows, Ashley, I haven't talked to you in a week. What's going on? What's your feeling? Like, and a lot of times you just, you avoid situation, you avoid places because you have a lot in your heart, and it's not always about the other person. We as women have to learn to forgive ourselves for getting out of character in certain situations. We got to learn to forgive ourselves before we can even expect other people to forgive us. And I struggle with that daily. Like, people don't see it, but I struggle with it daily. Like, I'm learning now, forgiving myself for actions that I've caused or actions that I played a role in. Forgive myself first before I expect other people to forgive me. And it's a struggle, but with God, we can do it. With God, we can
That's
do it.
good. That's good, Ashley, that you said that, because forgiving yourself is important as well too.
Oh, yeah.
And I definitely realize that now that you said it, because I'm so good with forgiving others, but it's forgiving myself that's the part that I struggle with, because I feel like, oh, it's your fault, you know, or you allowed it to happen, or you keep putting yourself in those situations, and if you keep blaming yourself for all of this, you're not being forgiven of yourself either. So that's another thing.
Mhm.
Forgiveness goes both ways, forgiving others and forgiving yourself. And I do struggle more with forgiving myself. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
How has my book actually inspired you anyway, or how has it helped you get through any situation? So I can start with Miss Ashley.
Right. So I had to write everything down. If I don't write it down,
That's okay. That's okay.
read it. This book inspired me to ultimately hold on to even the littlest piece of faith that I may have to get out of any situation, even if there's no possible way, even if I have no resources to help me, even if that road is long, dark, and unpromising. If I can believe it and I can get through it with the faith I have in God, I'll get through it. And that you inspired me to look at it that way. At the end of chapter 9, where you actually said, you said, I truly didn't understand what sacrifice really was, but I knew I was giving up things for God to help me throughout my struggle. And I just put myself in that little girl's position. I'm like, if a little girl can hold on to that little bit of faith and blow up the way she did, and why can't I as a grown woman? That's how I look at it. And that part of your book, the end of chapter 9, that it really just, I grabbed onto that. And I'm like, just that little piece of faith that little Ashley had, she held to it and she did not let it go. She didn't let it go. So that would be my main thing.
Okay. Can you relate to the story in any way?
I would have to say, reading your book, losing my faith, allowing life struggles and life situations, which now I can say was my growing journey. I didn't look at it as always as part of a journey and growing into the woman that I am. I always looked at it as God is punishing me again. Like, I could never get a break. I was the type of person where every time a situation arises, I would let it beat me all the way down. And trying to come up after being so low is the hardest thing ever. Because I went that low, now I know I can't go back there. So when the situation comes, okay, Satan, what's next? Because I'm not going back there because it's too hard. It's too hard these days to pick yourself up. And being the type of person I am, a lot of people, a lot of my friends and like coworkers, they'll tell me, we didn't know you was going through stuff, but Ashley, you're strong. You always help us. We don't know how to help you. We tell you, you always helping us. So when I realized that, I'm like, I can't get back down there because I'm affecting other people, you know. So I'll never, like, no matter what the situation is, I'll never allow myself to get that low again. And when I started praying that prayer, be careful what you pray for.
Oh yeah.
Test you with that very thing. And ever since, it's been about 3 years when I started praying that prayer, and ever since then it'll come with the test, but now I know how to handle it better. And because I know how to handle it better, it's resolved quicker.
Let me ask you, you said that you had to build yourself up again. How did you do it alone? Like, how did you do that?
I did it alone. The first thing I did, I converted my linen closet into my prayer room. Thank you, War Room, the movie.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure you all have watched it.
Yes.
And that movie, around the time when that movie came out, I was in a funk. And you'll never know it because Ashley still woke up, went to work with a smile, bubbly, getting coffee, like everything was good. But that movie stood out to me, and I'm like, I gotta do this. And I remember like the following weekend, I just went in there and I'm like, I don't know where I'm gonna put all this stuff because, you know, we got junk closets. I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna put all this stuff, but it has to go. I want to try this. I'm the type, if I see something that inspires me or grabs my attention, I'm gonna try. And I was like, what am I gonna lose? And I found some nights, I mean, my husband would wake up, he was like, where were you? And I would be in that prayer closet, y'all, just singing and crying and praying. And it was never planned. It was just like, get in there and whatever happens, happens. Whatever name came up to me, I made a note, like I would text that person during the week and was like, for some reason you was on my heart. I just want to tell you everything's going to be okay. And it never missed. Every single person that I end up texting during that week, they would give me the feedback like, oh my God, you just don't know what I've been going through. Or, oh my God, that blessed me because I asked God to show me a sign. Do I really matter? So when people started telling me that, I was like, I got to go back in that prayer room because he's talking to me in there. And if I'm helping other people, it's worth it. So I would have to say it's not always a bad thing to go through things and get out of things alone. That isolation is necessary. And I can say that speaking for myself, it was worth going through it alone. I'm not going to say I didn't need nobody because you always need somebody. But in that particular part of my journey, I needed to be by myself. I needed to be a one-on-one with God. And I'm grateful for it. It's still a journey, still growing, still have my moments, but I'll never get back down there. It's too long to get
I love it. I love it. You said a lot, and I could definitely relate to what you said. And guess what? It shows. It definitely shows. And I see you guys, we haven't seen each other in person for years, but I mean, we still communicate through social media. And you can see the growth in people, even with, we don't even post much, I know none of us do, but we can just see the growth in each other. And I thank God for placing you women on my heart because, I mean, yeah, you bring so much to the table.
Your book, man, the first thing it did for me was encourage me not to be ashamed of the things that I've gone through, because we all know there's certain parts of our stories that we don't want to tell, that we're embarrassed to tell. And, you know, whenever I read your book, you know, I knew we're close, so I knew some of the things, but there was no way I could have known all the things because you kept a lot of that stuff in. But as I read it, I knew that through your book, God was talking to me, look, even though you're embarrassed of this, our testimony is never for us. It's going to help somebody else. And so those parts of my life where, you know, it wasn't the same thing that you went through, but whenever I felt like I was all alone, whenever I just wanted to be in a dark room and not want to talk to anybody, whenever I was basically just going through depression, and I was embarrassed of that. But I read the book, I started praying, I started fasting, and then God started to show me different things. He would send people to the clinic that was in a dark place. And every time they would come into the clinic, he would just give me the words to say, and they would leave encouraged. You know, whether it was a drug addiction or somebody that was going through something similar to what you were going through, and they were going to a drug rehab because of those things, because he showed me there's always a root. People don't just wake up and get hooked on drugs. There's always something that led them to that. And, you know, your book, you took a different route, but not everybody is as blessed or as fortunate or strong-minded enough to get over those things. And so through your book, I was able to understand that she made it and use her story. Her story is encouraging you, giving you the words to say to help other people. So your story helps me to help other people. it helped me to be open and transparent about the things that I had gone through, about the depression, because I was only one bad decision away from getting hooked on drugs or being in the streets or doing something that I wasn't supposed to do. God had a different plan for my life. So it helped me in so many ways. I can't even just say one thing, but the main thing that it did was help me to not be ashamed of my story.
Not be ashamed of your story. You ended that. Wonderful. So I want to ask you, with not being, ashamed to share your story. Have you shared your story? Are you going to share your story?
I am. I was in an abusive relationship from 2010 all the way until 2017. And it started out just verbal. And just the verbal was enough to tear me down, because I don't hurt people's feelings with my words. And if I feel like I did, it's going to tear me up. Like, I have to apologize. If I feel like I hurt your feelings, it's going to bother me. So for somebody to do that to me, I felt like it was something that I was doing. And I'm a fixer also. So I tried to fix it, tried to fix him, tried to do all of those things. And then when it started getting physical, I was embarrassed by it. I was just ashamed. I'm like, there's no way I could tell this to anybody. There's no way I could even tell this to my family, because, people are so judgy. They're judgmental. They say things not realizing that it's going to hurt your feelings. People were probably going to say, you need to get out, but my heart was involved. So I couldn't just leave, and I felt like I owed it to that person to be there for him. If you're going through something that's making you hit me, then let me help you through it. I want to be there for you, because I feel like I owe you that, because we're together. And so I stayed, and it just tore me down as a person. Like, I can remember, man, wanting to just end it all. Like, I'm not even good enough to be a mom to my kids. Like, I just felt worthless. And I finally got up the courage to break things off with the person. And when I did that, he came into my home in the middle of the night and and got physical in front of my kids. And it was the first time he had done it in front of my children. And had I not left that night, it was about 3 a.m. Had I not left, I'm pretty sure he would have ended my life. And people who knew about it, they talked about it. And, they said, they were just talking about it. Y'all know how it is in Ville Platte. People talk, or that's everywhere, but they talked about it, but they didn't realize how much that hurt me as a person.
Right.
To have to get other people involved, because I'm a very private person when it comes to my business. And so for me to even be open about it and have to get the police involved, that took a lot away from me as a person, somebody that was already beat down. And I got out, and anytime somebody comes around me who's in that type of situation, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. And yes, people do change, and I don't communicate with that person. He may have changed, but for me, I would never, ever go back to that. Never. And it kind of, we're so conditioned to believe that we're always supposed to be strong. That kind of led me away from seeking therapy. And then I get into a new relationship with a great guy who's good for me, who's good for my children. And then you realize that the minute the argument comes about, you're ready to just, it goes south really, really fast, because you think that it's going to lead to somebody hitting you when that person would never put their hands on you. So, and that's it. I'm going to just end it right here, because
good for you.
This is, this is kind of a tough.
Yeah. I commend you for speaking on it. When I asked you to share your story, I was just basically on a book, or maybe just later, but guess what? You did it now, and I'm proud of you. And I kind of, I've been there with you around that time, and it is not, I haven't experienced that type of abuse, but I've experienced abuse, and people who are judgmental about what someone goes through, I'm not a fan of them. I mean, and that's the nicest way for me to say it. Because who are they to say how you're supposed to handle a situation, how you're
That's right.
supposed to get out of the situation, what you should and should not have done? Um, yeah, I lost you, Miranda. Are you still on?
I don't see her.
Uh, yeah, okay. Well, that's good. That's okay. We'll come back to you. Thank you so much for that, Miranda. Miss Althea, we are gonna go ahead and go to you and let you share any inspiration.
You ladies are all awesome. I would have never known with Ashalee, with Miranda, and it just, your guys' story, and it's just like a reminder, like, and I feel that it's like our duty, like, to we, and then I hear the common theme, like, I'm just a private person.
Yeah.
Me too. I just, like, when I got out of my relationships, people's like, I never knew you was going through this. But I think it's just it's just a reminder that we have to tell our stories, but to a trusted source.
Yes.
And I know for me, like, I love my family. You know, I thank God for, you know, my aunt and uncle taking me in, like you, how your family member took you in. Your mother was on drugs. My parents were on drugs. So it's just like, and I don't fault them, and I don't regret the way I was raised. They only did what they knew how to do. And, you know, we hear what goes on in this house stays in this house, and you don't tell everybody your business. But just thinking about it, I don't really think I knew of anyone who I really probably trusted in 1,000% that wouldn't be judgmental, that wouldn't tell me what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And it taught me to, okay, now when you approach a situation with a person and they're telling their story to you, sometimes it's just to be quiet and just listen. And I learned that your book has just been so encouraging to me. It's just, I believe it was what was needed. Like we talked about this. Sometimes your story, when it needs to get out at the time when God says go, you do it. And maybe it's going to be, I feel that your book is just, it's a, how can I say it? It's the first of many. It will let women know that they don't have to, or men too, you don't have to write a 300-page story. If it's your time to get your story out, get it out. So it has really encouraged me that no matter what you've been through, embarrassing, you know, shame, you're shamed to even tell your story. Your faith, like Ashley says, like my faith was like shot, but if you don't tell your story, like people may think, like Miranda, you said you felt like you couldn't really express your situation without being judgmental. And now you're in a spot where you're dealing with it by yourself. I mean, God created us to be in fellowship, to be in community. So it's heartbreaking, but I felt the same, that you can't, it's like when in the time you were in, you weren't able to well, Ashley, you know, but I'm sure you would have liked to told it to more people and more people to support you, you know, a family. So I just feel that, you know, our stories, Ashley, you did it, girl. You did it. And it's encouraging me. I need to stop procrastinating. You know, I have written, I'm halfway there. I don't know what it is. It's just something that's holding me back. Maybe it's a component of it, fear. Maybe it's subconsciously, like, if, you know, when I get this out, you know, people in Ville Platte, I love Ville Platte. I love my hometown. It's what, you know, raised me. But then, you know, some people's personalities. But then I'm to a point like where, okay, I don't care. It's about helping people. Because if we are went through this, Can you imagine? I've went through depression. I still go through anxiety. I've been in a funk for a long time. I was raised in church, knew God, but didn't have a relationship with God. And so that's why my life just eventually spiraled just out of control. It was reckless. And though people probably couldn't see it, didn't know all the details, I mean, it's our testimonies are needed to let that person who is promiscuous, to let that person who is in an abusive relationship, to let that person who feels like or try to attempt suicide know that, girl, boy, you gonna make it.
Yeah.
And this is how you're gonna make it. And I'm not just telling you you're gonna make it just to tell you, but I've been through it.
Yes.
And you're gonna make it. And this is how you can make it. Like at the end of the day, it's for me, it was just surrendering and submitting all to God, giving everything to God. I mean, everything. It wasn't comfortable, but I had to. I really wanted to know God. I felt at a point that God, when this happened, you punished me. I was in nursing school, went to the end, failed the last course. And it was my second time failing a nursing course. And you nurses know you have to sit out for 3 years. So it wasn't an option for me to go back to school then. And at that point, I remember writing a letter to God. I still have this letter, just crying out, just saying like, God, you're punishing me. Like, why? I felt like I deserved. My mom was dead. My dad was dead. I didn't grow up in the best circumstances. They were on drugs, had to live with my aunt, things there. And it's like, man, but I remember this one book I read that said that God doesn't punish us. He disciplines us. So there's a big difference there. And like us parents, we discipline our children, as the word says, because we love them. So it's just, your book, you did it. You didn't make excuses. You did it. All the pain and hurt you went through, you did it. You succeeded. Your relationship with God first, your beautiful family, this book, your other book coming out, you're a nurse, you're in school, like even this setup, like the sky's the limit. And I just thank you for bringing us women together just to show that we can get along. Like we can be uplifting to one another. And like I can go on and on and on, but I thank you, ladies, I thank you, Ashalee. Thank you.
Well, thank you, ladies, for you guys having me speechless. I'm trying to hold it together. But man, thank you so much, because I'm gonna go back on the part where you spoke of, our family. A lot of times we want to express things or say things, but we don't know how they're gonna receive it. So hold it in and we fight, and you never know what someone is battling. That's why it's so important to be kind to people, to love people. And yeah, I'll just say this, that I've learned that although it's still a struggle, I learned that we have to do what's best for us. We have to do what's best for us. So now I'm learning, although I'm still struggling with some people are not accepting it, some people are not supporting what I'm saying, because it's more of a cultural thing. Like, some things we just not supposed to speak about, But we have our lives to live. So, yeah. And we want more, you want to be better, you want more. So if you want to be more, it's just some things that we have to let go, because it's that baggage that we're carrying. And if we continue to carry that, we can't perform the way that we should, I'd say effectively. So thank you for that. Thank you for your message, Althea. Thank you all, ladies. Yeah. Whew. My heart is heavy. I love you guys. I love you all. I know that We haven't really, to be honest, you guys, there's so much about my childhood that I don't remember because I think that was just a way of me getting through stuff. So it's some things that I can recall and some things that I can't. But I like the fact that I have you all on the show, being that we went to school together, class of '02. We Bill is on the map. We're doing wonderful things, and we showing people back home as well. Some people want to get it and don't know how to get it. You know, don't know, don't have an outlet, but they see us and they probably think we have it all together. But as we spoke, we don't. I like to say, I don't have it all together. I just use what I have and make it work.
That's right.
It's a
Right.
daily fight. But
Good.
baby, I put on my armor of God and I step out and I am not bending, baby. I am not. Because with the process of what I'm doing now, I see how the enemy works. I see that the enemy, I have to fight even more because I'm trying to help God's people and he's trying to defeat me. And I'm well aware of it. But I will voice that I will not lose. I will forever win because whatever I'm going through, whatever I'm feeling is because God permitted. He allowed it to happen. And I believe that it's just going to strengthen me and get me to where he needs me to be. But it's a fight. It's a fight. Yeah, it's
Being able to recognize the enemy. Just something simple like that. You are able to recognize the enemy. A lot of people focus more on the situation,
yes.
but you focus on the enemy and who he's using and what he's using and put him in his place, you can avoid a lot. So it's a big thing. Once you recognize it, oh, you won already.
That's it.
Yes. You've recognized the enemy. A lot of people don't know how to recognize the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And I finally recognized it.
That, yes. That's so true. I agree. I agree. We are in a battle. And
yeah.
we I mean, as you mature in the Lord, you see that, I mean, like you said, the people that sometimes the enemy uses, it's not that person. We have to look at it like that's the enemy, like working in that person. So like I should say, be kind to people. Be kind to people. That might be a test for you.
Yes.
You know, it does get scary as sometimes because I serve on our prayer ministry. So just as I know that, man, this thing is serious. We are in, it's not what we see with our eyes. But if you we have those tools and you're using them, Ashley,
Yeah.
Miranda, we have to we're victorious already. He already said that, the battles is his, but sometimes it is hard. Like you said, Ashley, I'm telling you guys, literally this weekend, I was like, ooh, just boo-hooing it. But when Ashley LaFleur mentioned before, like, not, you can go through these things, but with joy, if that makes sense. Like, although I'm still like, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
You already know.
Trust you. I will trust you. I'll be honest, God, I feel bad. I feel, I'm honest with him. But Jesus, no, I am not giving up. It's no option. Like, it's no option. It's no option for any one of us. Because if we don't tell our stories, if you don't write your books, if whatever, we're gifted in, whatever our purpose is, like, it's a possibility, and I told you this, Ashley, that someone may give up on life because they didn't hear from Ashley or Miranda. They didn't get that encouraging text message, that encouraging phone call, that book that lets them know that they're not the only person that's been through something that it could be shameful, So like, we got the victory, y'all. We are strong. Like, we have the authority. Like, that's why the enemy is mad, y'all.
Yes.
Because he doesn't have authority or dominion no more. And that's why he tries to come with his little minions but we rebuke it. Like,
Right.
we're going to keep going until we're old and gray. We're going to keep on going. But I think that it's very important, that community, that
Yeah.
you have that trusted person that you can go to when you're, because sometimes we're pouring out, not knowing that we're about to become empty. And we need to go to, whether it's your spiritual mother or your pet, whatever it is, to make sure that we get poured into.
That's right.
Yes.
And refuel. We got to refuel ourselves.
Yes.
We take on so many other people's issues and problems to where we, like you said, we pour out so much to where we're empty. We got to stop, reset, and refuel so that way we can get back on it.
Amen.
Ashalee, you have to stop, reset, refuel, and get back on it.
That's a good one.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
She never stops, y'all. She never stops. Every now and then I shoot her a text. What you doing? I know she's moving 90 to nothing all the time.
All the time. I do. And
so we're grateful for what you're doing. Like, you know, if you hadn't written that book, you probably would still be one of the only people that know about what I had went through. Like, I don't, you know.
I know this is your actual first time, but guess what? This is your outlet. Just like my book was my outlet, that's your outlet. And now you get to share your side of it, because in private, nobody knows. I say I protect a lot of people's reputation because I never speak my side. I just go in private and deal with it, or just deal with the humiliation or whatever it is alone, and just let people talk about it, you know, let them say whatever it is. But that's your outlet. Now just do whatever it is you have to do to share your story and heal throughout this process. Because I've met ladies that experienced your situation as well, and it needs to be heard. Yeah, some people are just sitting in that situation. Well, with that being said, you guys, what I wanted to touch base on too is, because you guys knew me at that time when I was actually experiencing those things. You didn't know it was going on, but I'd like for you to tell me, how did you see me? How did you see me as a teenager? How did you see me in elementary school? You know, those things. If anyone can touch base on that. And I'm looking the floor to Miranda. I'll let her go first and tell me, what did she see in me?
I've always seen you as somebody who always wanted to make people laugh. Like, I can remember us laughing. Miss Trahan's class, man, she used to have to give me the answers because history wasn't my subject, So she'd give me the answers. I'd give her a little piece of pecan candy, and she'd eat it. But I always remember you looking out for other people. I've always remembered that about you. You were always looking out for somebody, always wanting to make people laugh. You were to yourself, but you also wanted to take part in different things at school, I've never, like the last little meeting that you had with the other set of girls, you said that people saw you as a troubled teen. I've never seen that. And, we were all around each other. I never thought that. I would have never thought that you were going through those things.
You were one of the people that you were so sweet. You were quiet, you were to yourself, because I don't like a crowd. So if you hang around with a clique, I'm kind of like, because if you're my friend, I have to trust you, right? Because so if you were too many people, too many people will know my business. So I'm kind of like, no, I'm not gonna, it's not, I guess it is judging. I don't know what to call it, but it's kind of like, I just like being to myself. So since you're by yourself, you were so sweet. I kind of cling to you. You're so nice. So I cling to you. And it's not too many people that got to know that side of me, because some people will judge you. I think even today, because I've had someone tell me, well, it's been a few years, and she was like, she never knew me. She knew me through a mutual friend, and she was like, I used to think you were just snobby and stubborn. And I said, who, me? she said, yeah, but she liked me now, so now she can tell me. But because I don't speak to people. I mean, I'm gonna speak to you, say hello and different things, but I don't go on with conversations or letting people know my business or kind of like, I'm like, hey girl, how you doing? Hot hugging and everything, and then I'm done. But you were able to see a different side of me. And I think you were the only one that ever opened up to that much, to be honest, at that time. So thank you for being so sweet and not in a clique, so I could turn.
I remember, I'm going to say this because I know you don't mind me saying this. I remember you coming to school and us going in the restroom at Bill Platt High, and you're brown, so in order for a bruise to show on you, it had to be hit pretty hard. And I remember you picking up your shirt and there was bruises on your back. And you said it was from one of those large bats. Those, those bats that was big at the end. They were orange. We all had them. Still make those. And I've never bought my kids one of those because I remember you coming to school with bruises on your back from that. And I thought, how could somebody do that to a child and someone that was just as nice as you? Because you were a good kid. And I remember you showing me that, and I thought, how could somebody do that, number one? And number two, how hard did you have to get hit for it to even show, because you were darker. So I remember that. I've never forgotten it.
Let me tell you something. I know, you see, and I was a teenager then. Guess what? I cannot recall that day I did that, but I thank God that I did. You know what I can recall? Y'all remember Miss Kathy? She was the computer lab teacher. So, yeah, she was just so sweet. And I didn't know who to tell, but I was terrified. I was terrified because I felt like the beating was just getting out of control. After everyone left out of the class, I used to wear jackets. I used to wear long sleeves, and it was hot. I would kind of cover my body up. So after everyone left out, I remember telling her, just showing her, I pull up my sleeves. I remember that, pulling up my sleeves, just showing her my body and all the bruise and the big, just bruises all over from my arms to my legs and my back. And I told her, I need you to, remember this. I need someone to see this in case anything happens. But I asked her not to tell anyone. And still to this day, I don't know, even though she remembers that, but that was the one person that I remember showing that I felt that. I have to have a witness for something in case anything happens. And I don't even share it that deep. So people, I'm sure some people probably like, oh, everybody gets beat. Oh, but they whip their children. But no, baby, I was more like, it's like, when you beat a dog, like if you beat a dog, eventually they'll run away or turn on you. That's the type of beating. And I'm like, why can someone be so angry? I don't understand.
And it wasn't you. It wasn't
Something you did wrong.
whatever anger she had, whatever she went through. Unfortunately, you got the source of her anger, her bitterness. It wasn't you. It wasn't you. It wasn't you. Nothing that you did.
He was just a child that just wanted love.
Other things happen too. Oh shucks. I'm sorry, you guys. This is it's going on long. Okay, so we were speaking about how did you guys actually as a kid seeing what you can recall about me whenever you would see me at school or different places. I will start off with you, Miss Ashley.
Well, for me, what I recall was I was the kid that was in the crowd. How if I pep squad. So I was that girl that was always in the crowd. But the times that I would go and like talk with Ashley or try to, clown with her, I just felt like I had to work a little bit harder to get her to laugh back or open up. It was more of like how can I get to her? To like other people, I'll walk up to them, say something, everybody laugh for good. But I always felt I got to work a little bit harder to get Ash to loosen up a little bit. I just felt like it was always like a wall initially. But once I said a joke or we laughed about a teacher or a test or something, we were good. But there was always like trying to get through her. And I always wondered, like in the back of my head, what's going on? Like, why? It's like I felt like it was something with me. I'm like, I can walk up to anybody and we just go with the flow. But when I would go to Miss Ashley, it's like I had to work. I gotta work a little bit harder. I gotta come up with some better jokes about something. Sis ain't giving in at first.
I ain't laughing today.
Was me, being with the crowd. But once I got through to her, we clicked. But it was just that was the main thing I recall. But I recall Ash just being a sweet girl. That's the main thing. She was just a genuine sweet girl. And we all know Miranda was the sweetest. I mean,
so soft-spoken.
Right.
So.
You've seen anybody with Miranda, they came from a good fruit. So I'm like, she hanging around Miranda, she a sweet girl. So I gotta get through her. But I just remember Ash being a sweet girl, just a little tough to get through to her initially. But once I got through her, we were laughing and clowning. That's the main thing. I remember you just being a sweet girl.
Thank you for that, Miss Ashley. And I want to apologize now because I didn't even know. I probably was just, my mind was probably just other places. I know I was experiencing things because even wanting to participate in extracurricular activities at school, I couldn't do that, or it was just certain things, that I was experiencing. So I know it had to do with what I was going through. Because someone told me something about what I've done to them in elementary school. And like not that long ago, and I actually felt so bad, like I hurt. If I hurt you, I definitely hurt because I know how it feels to receive that hurt. I'm a loving person. Although I protect myself, I just love to go around and show love to people. And if I ever allow you to get in that space, I promise you're gonna love me because it's like my loyalty with people.
Yes.
Is unbelievable. And I think that's why I hurt so bad when I have somebody in a space that I know I could never do that to and then experience it from them. It hurts me for a long time. And I was even told, let it go. And I feel like it's not the point of me not letting it go. It's because of my love for them. And it just still hurts that I know I love these people, but in order to protect me, I have to live a certain way. I have to live without them. I have to. And that's not what I want to do because I'm the little people pleaser. You know what I'm saying? I'm a people pleaser. I want everybody to be happy. And then, but I learned, Ashley, you can't. You can't do that. All you're doing is hurting yourself.
That's right. So
with that being said, I know I'm big on facials. So if I'm not smiling, I probably have that face that, ooh, she ready to fight. But as soon as you say something, I'll be like, hey, girl. So, but I'm definitely glad that we're able to have this conversation as women, as older women. I love you guys. I thank God for you guys. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you because I didn't see it and I didn't know it. And I need to know those things. I want to know those things.
Yeah.
So thank you. Miss Althea, your turn.
Ashley, y'all out there, she was mean, she was hateful. No, I just have to take y'all back.
It was, girl.
No, that is false.
Not true.
Yes. I would say maybe I like you. I don't know. We must be sisters from another mother from just something. When you say like certain things you just can't remember. And even in high school, like you told Miranda, you couldn't remember. And it's so funny. I have that same issue. Like even my brother, he's younger than me. Things from our childhood, he remembers like just everything. And I'm like, I don't remember. I don't remember. And it's like you want to remember, if that makes sense. But because I just for just so many years, I just wanted to just not think about any of it. And so it just, even the good stuff, it's swept away. It's somewhere in there in the subconscious somewhere. So even in high school, just certain things, it's just like, I can't remember, but I remember we were in computer science together, was it? Maybe you don't remember, but we were taking a class together. I can't remember if maybe I heard it or I experienced it. Maybe you.
Algebra, girl. We were in what it was, the advanced algebra class. I think I remember that.
Girl, I don't remember. I don't know. Maybe it was you and I, or maybe I heard it. You had a little sassy, like, you know, maybe response. But no, you were, we always got along. You were, I could just vaguely remember just us, you know, talking. And then, but it goes to show it wasn't, if it was you and I, or I don't know, but anytime I saw you after graduation, we just clicked. And I just remember you, you know, in nursing school, I was just so proud of you. And then of course for homecoming, we had a blast. So, I mean, that just goes to show you that, you know, people like that who are loving, because none of us are perfect. Right. And I mean, just as young, immature children, teenagers, we have these hormones and stuff like that. But for the most part, and like you said, you don't want to be judgmental, but at the same time, you know, as I grow older, maybe, you know, you just kind of building up that wall. But Ashalee was nice too, but you just build up the wall between her. I mean, certain people, like, we shouldn't be around, you know, if that makes sense. And so you were always, we got along. And even you and I talking, it had been years. I felt like it was just like yesterday we were talking. You were just so kind. So I think that just like who you really are, like in high school, whether you had your little, I know you, maybe I heard on the other previous things, and like Miranda said, people would say you was a troubled child. I didn't see it, but at least at the core of you, it carried on. Like, you're a loving person, you're a forgiving person, you're a cool person. But girl, I don't think it's nothing wrong with you not talking to, but you should have talked to Ashalee. No, I'm just playing. But yeah, some people we gotta put up our guards. We can't share our hearts with everyone, because So no, you were, for the most part, I didn't, you weren't on these streets wilding out, like just fighting everybody, just stealing, just dealing drugs,
Far from.
Yeah, I thank you guys so much for that. Well, ladies, this was awesome. We had an amazing time, an amazing discussion, and I know that we all were able to help someone out there. And I'm so blessed and such to have you guys on Let's Talk with Ashalee. So at this time, I would just tell everyone thank you. If you would like to have an interview with me, you can reach out to me on any of my social media platforms. Just DM me. Usually it's at A Woman Lost in Her Childhood or at Ashalee Nelson. So you guys can contact me that way. And that is it. Ladies, do you have anything else for me?
I would have to say, keep pushing, keep allowing God to use you. Remember, this is what you prayed for, and now is your time. So don't look back, block the distractions, and do what God leads you to do, regardless of who like it, what like it. Do what God told you to do. Because at the end of the day, we all look forward to something well done. And you going now.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Okay.
That's awesome.
That's it. You, Sophia?
Keep going, Ashalee. You better not stop. You got to keep going, walking in purpose. There's so much ahead, and you got God on your side. So it don't matter about anyone else. Girl, God is for you. Who can be against you? Y'all, that's it. I love you so much. Much blessings upon your life and your family's lives.
Yeah.
All right. That's it. You guys have a good night.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye.